Welcome back to the Seek Truth podcast. My name is Ashley Aguilera. I have these headphones on because as I was editing this podcast episode that you're about to watch, dude, one mic was off and it was mine. And so I just been dropping the ball with the audio and I just want to apologize. Yeah. Anyways, the audio is not the best for this episode, but it's still very clear for the most part. So we're going to run it because it was a very powerful episode. If you are new here, my name is Ashley Aguilera, Ashley Paola Aguilera, and this is the Seek Truth podcast. Today's episode is with Arianna, which is a friend of mine that I've known for years, 7-8 years now. And we had a season where we were not believers, but we knew each other. And now today we are believers and our lives look very different and our conversations are very different. So her story is full of redemption, full of restoration, and we get to sit down and hear her story. So a lot of heavy topics: suicide, depression, anxiety, harming of oneself, all the things, but with the hope of Jesus Christ on the other end. So share this with someone that is maybe dealing with that, has dealt with it, all the things. And yeah, like, comment, share, get this podcast out so we can continue to build the kingdom and share the truth with people. What else? Oh yeah, if you're looking for a community, join Jesus Squad. We have a community chat. The link is in the bio. We have calls Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. PST, where we dig into the word together, pray together, all the things. We have events and lots of things that God is doing, small groups. Yeah, it's a lot. God is just doing things and we're just saying yes to it. If you want to share your testimony, share your information, a little bit about your story in the link below in the show notes. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go run and do the thing. And that's it. Okay. Again, sorry for the audio. Okay. Love you. Bye. Well, I'm glad that we got to kind of talk before we pressed record. So we did a little flashback Friday. Because when we first met, it was 2018 and we were both completely different people.
Yeah. To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. And we'll talk about it, especially when it comes to your testimony. But back then, we would have conversations, and yeah, like that video said, I was leading you to affirmations, positivity, manifestation, yoga. I took her to her first yoga class, and last.
Yeah, first and last, it really was.
I'm glad.
That hot yoga.
Good. But nonetheless, now we're here as sisters in Christ.
Love that.
And yeah, I'm just excited that you're here. So thank you for being willing to share your testimony. But for those of you that don't know who she is, if you could just please introduce yourself and why you were down to get on the podcast.
Okay. So my name is Arianna Sierra. I got saved back in 2013, but my walk has definitely not been something where it's just been straight away where I'm constantly up. I've definitely fallen back, and I feel like this point in my life I really felt compelled to kind of share my testimony, because in the past year I've fully kind of really surrendered to God and the amount of work that I've seen him do and continuously still doing in my life right now. My testimony, I think, can help people kind of keep pushing forward in whether it is their depression, their anxiety, kind of their familial issues and things that I kind of push through, and yeah, it does get better.
Amen. Yeah, for sure. It's a night and day difference, like who you are today and even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And when I think of you and your testimony, I think about depression, mental struggle, and suicide. Yeah. Right? That's something that you have overcame, and I know that a lot of people struggle with it, and it's very spiritual. Yeah. And so I think that it's going to be cool to hear your perspective, because you have not only dealt with it like clinically, but spiritually.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and there is entirely two different types of healings that went on during that time. And yeah, it's surreal to get to this point.
So what do you think triggered you stepping into that season of, because you were young when you first started getting like mental struggles, right? And like, what did that look like? And also at the same time, was God in your life at a young age, or when did that all happen?
So I kind of want to start with something that I heard the other day. So God has a plan for you from the second, you're made and you're in the womb and everything like that. But unfortunately, so does Satan. He knows that there are seeds he's going to be planting along the way that kind of make you question who God has already created you to be. And so from a very young age, I feel like I've dealt with a lot of like trials and tribulations. So when I was around 5 years old, I actually was molested by a family member. And then that was kind of like a huge catalyst to like where the trajectory of the rest of my life was going to go for a significant amount of my childhood. Unfortunately, at the time, which I don't think any parent would know how to deal with that, neither of my parents really know how to deal with that. And they had their own generational curses of not feeling like they were loved, not feeling like they were enough from their own family. And so that kind of trickled down to me. And so when it came down to like all these situations, they were people pleasing. And so they're trying to be the best parent that they can be, but also recognizing, wait, this is a family member that did this, then we have no family. Holidays are going to look different.
Right.
And so looking back now, I had a lot of anger when I was younger, and now I'm able to talk about it, but they didn't know how to deal with it. But that made me angry towards them for a long time. My father had my oldest brother out of wedlock. He's my half brother. And I always felt like the dynamic with my siblings was like I was the least favorite child. And so I felt like nothing I ever did was enough. I got straight A's. That wasn't enough. It was kind of like, well, we're going to focus on your younger brother. You need to tutor him. You need to pour into him. And so there was always such a huge expectation, almost being like a middle child and an older child at the same time. Because my older brother was like, we only had custody of him like every other weekend. So like he was there, and when he was there, my younger brother would look up to him like, oh, this is the older sibling. Right. But then I had the burden of like, you need to be the responsible one. And so it was always like this weird thing where like I had to be responsible, but also like there was no space for myself. And a lot of the things that my parents went through, they kind of like really almost like projected their own insecurities onto me.
Yeah.
And so when I because of that, I was not getting a whole lot of love basically. And all throughout elementary school, middle school, pretty much severely bullied to the point where my parents actually moved me from Azusa to Rancho Cucamonga around my freshman year of high school. My mom was concerned because I was showing signs of depression at that point, and I was bullied for having good grades and for being a nerd and everything like that. Because over there, it was entirely different. Like, and then when I came to Rancho, it was a like huge culture shock, which is a surprise. It's only a 30-minute drive.
That's not that far.
It's not. But then I remember thinking like, I'm getting bullied here in Azusa for getting good grades and everything like that. So I did an entire 180, and I purposely started failing in high school because I thought, well, I'll be cool here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I went to Los Osos, and these parents, like they want you to go like the top tier colleges, and it wasn't until like halfway through high school that I was like, oh dang, like I'm kind of like the dumb one here, and like this actually isn't cool, and like I'm ruining my life right now.
Wow.
But by that point, now I've created this different personality in high school that like she's just this dumb person from Azusa who her family has no money, because these kids had nicer cars than what my parents had.
Yeah.
And so like it was a whole entirely different dynamic. And growing up feeling like, okay, well, I'm not enough at home. Now I'm not enough at school. Like, where exactly do I fit in?
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was hard to reach that point where like I felt like no one loved me, no one cared about me. Why should I care? And I feel like nothing I ever did was enough, and that's still something I still struggle with a little bit, but God has kind of really helped me navigate through that. And my first suicide attempt actually was, I was really struggling. I was fighting a lot with my mom at the time, did not feel safe being at home. We were just at each other's throats pretty much all the time. I was 17.
Okay.
And also at the time, I had this ex-boyfriend, and I had sent pictures of myself to him, and I never will forget that my younger brother, who's 2 years younger than me, came up to me at school, grabbed my arm, and was like, "Yo, I'm getting told right now that there's pictures of you out." And in my head, I'm thinking like, I don't know what you're talking about, because I genuinely didn't, because I hadn't been with that guy for like a year and a half.
So you totally forgot about that intimate moment.
Yeah, and so I had no idea, and so he is like, "Yeah, like, well, your pictures are basically sent around this whole school." I remember being so beyond like, yeah. My brother's telling me this. He's 2 years younger than me. Now I feel like, what do I do? I didn't know who to tell. I felt so much shame.
Oh, that's shame, guilt, yeah.
Yeah, and then my mom didn't know any of this stuff was going on, and I kind of was just being like rebellious and everything. And my mom at that point, she kind of just told me like, no one cares about you. You know, we got in a fight. She's like, no one cares about you. Like, get over it. With your sadness, your depressions, you know. And she would tell me like, you know, you're a whore, and like that's what it is. And she didn't know what I was struggling with. Like, it was hard. And so when she said that and told me like, you know, you can die, no one would care. And I really, it took me a long time to get past that statement. Like, you can die and no one would care.
Right.
And looking back now, it was definitely like a spiritual thing, because like when I think about it, like, I know that she feels some type of way, like she's not loved enough, and it's just projecting her stuff onto me. And that day was the day that I was like, oh, if no one loves me, no one's gonna care about me.
What came into an agreement that from a lie that was from hell, and your mom was the vessel that was used through an open door of her own brokenness.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. And so that day I attempted to, and I remember taking so many pills, basically whatever I could find. But apparently, my younger brother, he saw, and he was, at the time, he was baby, and I had left. And,
okay, like how old?
Like 3.
What?
Yeah, he was tiny.
And he saw and he knew it was happening.
Yeah, and so I just felt, like, so I went back home after, because I was not feeling well, obviously, because I was taking all this stuff, and my mom like immediately knew. And that rest of that day, and it was like New Year's Eve of 2013, I basically spent it by the toilet, her shoving her finger down my throat. And then she didn't know what to do with me at that point, nor did my dad, because it's like, what do we do with this girl? Like, she's clearly depressed to the point where she just tried killing herself. And so what they did was they took me to church. And we were kind of like that, like, Easter Christmas family, where you go to church basically like twice a year.
A Christian church.
Yeah, a Christian church. Actually, Faith Community Church. It's not there anymore. It's in West Covina. And so we hadn't went in years. And so my mom was like, what do we do with her, basically? So they took me to church, hoping that God would, like, save me, basically. In that sermon, I got nothing out of it. But by the end of it, they said, by the way, we're actually having, like, our teen, like, trip, like, our winter camp this weekend. We actually ended up raising so much money that we have extra spots, and we have 2 extra spots left if anyone wants to go. My mom immediately was like, you're going. And so I remember being so pissed off at her, like, you're just shipping me off. Like, you don't even care about me, and now you're just sending me so someone else can deal with me. We're not some faith-based family. You know, we're not Christians. We just randomly show up here. And that weekend actually was my first encounter with God. And I remember sitting in a room, and they were like praying over us, and the person who was like praying over us, they were saying like, there's someone here right now, like, I feel it, that has so much shame from what they have sinned that they don't know how to deal with that, and they weren't supposed to be here, and they're here right now. And I immediately knew, like, that was me. And I immediately just started sobbing. And he came over to me, and he was like, God has big plans for you. And I want you to know that you are so loved, and that sin does not define you. And I remember feeling so heavy in that moment. And like in a matter of like an instant, I felt everything lifted off of me. And I was uncontrollably crying, and that was kind of like a huge point for me where like it switched. But it didn't stay that way.
Yeah. But that was like a moment where you could deny, like, oh, God is real.
Yeah, and that was my first encounter with him.
Wow. And then, so you said that it didn't stay that way, or like, so what happened?
So obviously, because of like just because I went on that trip doesn't mean my parents went on that trip.
Okay, yeah.
And so they weren't the leaders and didn't know how to be the leaders at that point. And so they kind of thought, well, if we take her to church, sparingly here and there on Sundays, then it's fine. And that's really not how it works. Like if you're gonna be
disciple.
Yep. And they didn't know how to do that. They didn't know what that looked like, and the church didn't really offer resources at that time for that. And so I went astray again. I always knew he was there. I felt that he was there, but it was hard. And so that was around January 2013. In October of 2013, my uncle actually committed suicide. And no one in our family knew that I had already attempted earlier on, other than my parents and my brother.
Real quick, before I forget about your brother, like, does your brother remember? And what do you mean, like, he knew, or like
he told her I took pills. Yeah.
At 3 years old.
Yeah, he was little.
Wow. Okay, sorry. I just had to like.
Yeah, no. He was tiny. Yeah.
Yes, that's Echo's age. I'm like, wow. Yeah. But no, that they're smart.
Yeah, they're very observant. They're very observant. Yeah.
Okay, so your uncle. So then that happens, and
that was a kind of like a really heavy thing for me, where I actually was like, all right, you and me, God, like we're done, because like clearly, he did not make it out. I made it out, but why didn't you save him? And I struggled with that for years.
And that's like your pattern, right? And we talked about it, like God doesn't kind of complete something, or you're not happy with him, you're like, all right, bye.
Yeah, I'm out. Yeah.
We laugh now because you're getting
because I'm in an entirely different headspace now, and I've learned so much. And like we're like locked in now, so I'm not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. So now I'm just like he's just like go to your room. I'm
but
like,
isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how we have our way of being with God, and God's like, okay, like, well, I'm still
it really is like a father-daughter relationship. He's like, right.
I just feel like he's just like, all right, daughter, sit down. I'll be here when you're done with your little
get your tantrum.
Yeah,
just like a toddler. Like, I'm sorry, I'm done with that. Anyways,
so
yeah, pretty much.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you pieced out because he didn't save your uncle. Okay.
Yeah, and that I struggled with that because I was like, okay, well, maybe it was a fluke, and yeah, I really struggled with the fact that like seeing how much pain he was in, because he dealt with depression for a long time. I was like, why didn't you save him? And I remember praying so many times, like, why didn't you help him? Like at the time he had like a 5-year-old son. And so I'm like, he left his son. Look at all this mess that he left, and like you could have helped him, and you chose not to. You can do that for me one day. You're gonna be here for a minute and then dip out. And I kind of strayed away, and so instead, actually, that month was the first time I took ecstasy. Once I took that, I was on it for a while. And that is quite literally the like highest dose of unnatural, artificial happiness that you could possibly take. And once I took the first one, then I was like, dang, I got no problems. Let's just keep this going. And so I took it again, and then it just...
And what scene would you take it? Because I'm like, I took a lot of ecstasy too, but it would be in the rave scene. Where did you
take it? So the first time I took it was at a rave.
Okay.
And then I bought a ticket to like a concert like 3 weeks later, and I took it again at a concert, but it wasn't a big rave. And then I was like, all right, well then I'll only do this at raves. And then I started taking it at parties. And then I took it at home. And then it was like locking myself in my room, and like my family didn't know that I was taking this, but like to me, I'm like, if I gotta be in this house, if I gotta be in this life, like I would need these moments of pure joy. So much to the point that my body stopped producing serotonin.
She would crash out. You really have like really bad lows. Yeah.
Bad
lows. Because I remember that was a thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't depressed I guess I would go through depressive episodes, but when I was taking the ecstasy, we would always talk about the come down.
Yeah.
Where after the rave, like the weeks after,
it's just like a regular hangover, but it's significantly different because it's a chemical thing.
It's like you're dumping out all the dopamine from your brain, so then you have to wait till like your brain resets. Basically.
Yeah. But mine didn't, because I had already taken it so many times over a small period of time that when I started going to therapy, they're like, your body's actually like not producing it anymore, and so they're like, you need to go on antidepressants, and I was like, I'm not taking antidepressants. Like
So never did?
I did eventually. And so I just started smoking weed instead. I was like, well, this makes me laugh. So like, we'll just want to take that. That's natural, we'll do that instead. And then I'll drink and I'll have fun and do all these things. And so I got into so many different vices. And then it reached a point where like none of them worked. And then I attempted to commit suicide again. And I was
Wait, what year?
2017.
So this is like the year before I met you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm trying to get the whole time.
Ironically, you met me like a couple months before. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was hard. And at that point, that was such a dark place. Like, I wouldn't even leave my bed for like days at a time. And I would go to the bathroom and then I'd come back and I would just lock myself in the dark. And I also got kicked out of my parents' house at that time. We were butting heads a lot. And so I was already struggling with the dynamic of like moving out of my parents' house, knowing that we had a very toxic relationship, but still grieving that because I still wanted that family.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was living with Sean, and so it was just me and him. And so now it's like we're living together, and I'm going from this big family to just me and you, my own place. I was not showing up to work. I was just calling out all the time, saying I had migraines or everything was really. I was like super depressed. I was smoking a lot, or I just wouldn't get out of bed, and it was a pretty low point. And so I attempted again. And that time, Sean didn't really know what to do. And so he called my dad and said, like, I don't know what to do with her. Like, I don't know how to help her anymore. Like, she's been really struggling. And so my dad and him basically created this plan that they were going to call my therapist and say I had an appointment. So Sean's like, please go to therapy. So I went. And then that was pretty much done from there. Like, they're like, did you attempt to commit suicide a couple days ago? And I was like, yeah, I did. And they're like, you gotta go. And so they actually sent me to a mental hospital to put me on a 72-hour hold, which was not a 72-hour hold, ended up being significantly longer because of just the shadiness of the hospital. They wanted to lock me in because my dad has um, great health benefits and they will pay forever. And so they straight up told me at that mental hospital, like, your insurance will keep paying for you to be here for months. So, like, we can keep you here. And I remember being there and someone else, her insurance stopped paying, and they told her that you gotta go. And she was like, but I don't feel good. Like, I still feel depressed. And they're like, yeah, well, insurance stopped paying. So that's kind of that. And
wow.
I was struggling because.
So, what are they doing there?
So they make you do therapy pretty consistently, like group therapy and one-on-one therapy, and then they make you sit down with like a psychologist, and basically they prescribed your medication. But that psychologist was only with you for like 5 minutes at a time. So in my head, I'm like, you don't even know me enough to even be prescribing me anything. And I remember that doctor telling me like, either take what I give you or you stay here. You take your pick. And after my third day, and them saying like, we're gonna keep you, I'm like, no, I'm I'm dipping. Like, I'm just gonna take this medication. And that's when I started taking the medication. And that was also a point where like I lost myself because I trusted these doctors to know what it was that they were doing. And in a span of 2 years, I went on 8 different antidepressants. They misdiagnosed me with bipolar disorder, and I was on that medication. I was on anti-anxiety medication. Dude, I was on so much that I had no idea who I was. And then it wasn't until COVID that like things were different. And I immediately was like, I don't even know what I'm angry about, what I'm sad about. So yeah. I do not recommend this for anyone because it is dangerous. But I just cut myself off cold turkey. I did not trust my doctors. Stop taking the anti-anxiety meds. Stop taking the bipolar meds. Stop smoking weed because I shouldn't have been doing it at the same time. Stop drinking everything. Started searching for God again because I knew He was there. Started running, doing a lot of stuff for my health, and yeah, I mean, she's just been working on me pretty much ever since. I do not take any medication, nor do I feel like I need to. I feel like I'm in the best headspace. Me and God are closer than ever, and I don't feel that darkness.
Yeah. And without saying it, like, and you're going through a massive trial that
5 years ago, 7 years, would probably taken you out.
Oh yeah,
like
1,000%
out.
Yeah, I think everything actually that's happening this year is the part that's tripping me out the most. Is I feel like with everything I have going on in my personal life right now, and all the trials, and even technically cutting off like the soul ties earlier this year with my parents, that's been hard. And I have not been told more my entire life. Like, you are so resilient. In my head, I'm like, girl, who? Like, what are you talking about? But I feel it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, God is good.
It's only because of God.
1,000%.
The peace that doesn't make sense.
No.
That
I
surpasses
have this
all
peace,
understanding.
that I should not have right now. I feel like I'm definitely in a season of like harvest where like I've spent so much time, with him, and I would have never thought I would even be at this point. I would have never even thought I would be alive. Okay. So I'll be 30 in 2 weeks. And I genuinely told myself several times at the age of 22, you'd be lucky if you see 25.
Yeah.
And so I've been feeling that lately, like knowing that my birthday's coming up. I'm like, I am so proud of you for pushing through your 20s, because that was hard.
Yeah.
Like, that was heavy. But I also know I could not have done any of this without God. And ironically, even though I've went through so much like trials, he has been there. And I've always known that he's been there, just not as like fully present as I want, but that's because I didn't allow him to. But I do not regret anything I've done in my 20s. Nothing. Because everything that I've done has gotten me 1,000% to this point and closer to him. Like, I had to reach some low points.
Yeah.
To make it here. And I'm super grateful for him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't pray this all the time, but there's just some people in my life where I'm like, they're so self-righteous in the way that they don't need Jesus, they don't need God. And I'm just like, dude, I know something's coming. I don't know what it is, but some type of rock bottom will happen. Some type of struggle, trial, that when it happens, because not if, when it happens, because every human is going to go through it. I pray that that's when you look up and call out to God.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, 80% of the testimonies that I hear, it's some type of rock bottom, and God's able to reach us up and to him. I saw something yesterday that someone was visiting, which I didn't know you could do, which I really want to do. You can visit the actual prison that the Apostle Paul was in when he was writing the letters to the churches, and it showed a picture of it, and it says, there's like a little bit of light, and it says like, without this light that we artificially put in, it would be complete darkness. It would be a cold, this and that. And so that was actually the true conditions that Apostle Paul was in, right? Mm-hmm. So just that, even in like the dark, cold imprisonment, God was able to speak to Paul, and he was able to hear so clearly to the point where now we have the Gospels and the New Testament. And when I read that, I was like, dude, that's us. Like, when we're in those cold, dark prisons in our life, that's when we're able to hear God, because we're actually like seeking him. We're actually seeking his voice. We need something, like something's got to give, because if not, like, I'm about to die right now, whether it's physically, spiritually, emotionally, or we're probably already at that point, And so, you just saying all that, I thought of that. Okay, so now, because that's been like the past 5 years where God's been working in you, and I know that as a Christian, the process of pruning and sanctification and purification is like not always the most comfortable.
Dude, there's no part of it that's any comfort.
Like, and it's funny because I always think about this and I'm like embarrassed because I got to be on the podcast with what's this? Pastor Tim Ross.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk about that too. No, but Pastor Tim Ross, and I was just like on a high with Jesus. I was pretty fresh in recommitting my life to him, and I was just on a high. And So I remember I shared my testimony, and he's like, so afterwards, he's like, so, but how's life now? You know, like how? And I'm like, it's good. Like it's like the
Chilling.
best. Like I just love God has changed everything, and it's like, and I just remember, and now I know. I remember him looking at me and being like, okay, that's good. And and
Because he knew he was like,
he's like, oh, this girl has no idea like what's coming.
Yeah.
Because when you truly are walking with God, there comes a point where God's like, all right, I'm gonna prune you now.
Yep.
Like, if you want to bear more fruit, if you want to remain in me, I'm gonna have to cut the things that don't work and cut the things that are working so they grow more.
Yeah.
And man,
that verse is quite literally my favorite verse. I
It's so
actually
good.
use that for like my business a lot. Like that is the verse because I feel like it's constantly a reminder that I can't help people bear good fruit. I can't provide them the services that I need to if I do not remain in Him. If I'm
apart from me, you can do nothing. Literally
nada,
nothing.
zero. Yeah, no.
Nothing.
Yeah, and then you try and you're like, I can do this, and then humble real quick. Like, no.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing. Like even yesterday, I was talking to Coach Franklin and Coach Danny, and just talking about my situation. He was like, Danny was like, but be for real. Like you've cried a couple times about this, huh? I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay. He's like, that's good. I was like, yeah. And then Coach Franklin was like, why? Why are you crying? I was like, because sometimes in the process of figuring things out, you rely on your own strength, you rely on your own understanding until you realize like, oh wait, no wait, oh God, like it's not even me, it's not even so like we cause our own suffering all the time, trying to figure things out and trying to rely on our own understanding and how we think how we think things should work out and all things. So but with that, so what are some of the things that God has had to prune you from or sanctify you from and through in these past 5 years? Because I know a couple things. But...
Yeah. Definitely, the drinking, the smoking, I definitely take that from me. There were a lot of friendships that he kind of just took out. That was hard.
Yeah, no one talks about the mourning of friendships. Those.
Yeah, especially too when like you have the dynamic of like I already don't really feel like I have that close to my family.
Yeah.
And so then to be like, okay, well I have my friends, and he's like, no, you don't got those either, actually. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I have then?
Yeah.
Like me.
Yeah.
And like at that point I'm like, that's it? And now I'm like, you're more than enough.
That's
like, I'm not
so
even...
funny. I keep hearing that more and more. Like the way he strips everything.
Yeah.
But wait, I like this. It's like, okay.
And like, what do you want me to do with that? And it's like, yeah. And I think the biggest thing for me really was this whole parent thing. That was a very hard thing. It's definitely still something I'm still trying to navigate through. But I think there is something to... I'm sure a lot of people probably deal with this, and we've had this conversation in Bible study where it obviously says honor your mother, honor your father. But at what point are you now putting yourself in the fire all the time and you're kind of turning away from God? And like what I eventually felt like what it was is that God is constantly shining a light in me, and I'm allowing them to constantly turn it off. And now I don't get to bless other people because you have made me feel so empty, so worthless, and no amount of turning to God and saying, hey, I'm more than enough. Like when I go back to that place, I'm still going to be in that relationship.
I'm going to look something up. Sorry, I'm not ignoring you. But
you're good. And like, in my school of ministry and everything that I just finished, that was something we talked about. We talked about a soul tie and what that looks like, and it can be with people, it can be with vices, whatever the case is. And like it was an abusive relationship for me, and I did feel like I'm constantly going to be seeking you and idolizing you over my heavenly Father. And that's what it was like. Well, how do I make them love me? And that's something that I was sort of like, why am I not enough? Like, okay, maybe if I do this, maybe I do this. And then I realized like, okay, unfortunately, where you're at, you're never going to be enough to them. And that's a hard thing to swallow, is to realize, like, I'm probably never going to be enough to my mom. I'm probably never going to be enough to my father. But to God, I'm more than enough. And when you look at that, the man who, and I think about it all the time, like the man who created everything. When I go on my runs and I see like the trees and the mountains, like this man built everything. And he does so many miracles, and he loves me more than anything, and will constantly chase after me.
And more than our parents ever could.
More than our parents ever could. When you sit with that amount of love and you let him fully love you,
yeah,
it's better than any vice. It's better than any other relationship that you can get outside. Like, that is a true unconditional love.
Yeah, it's a firm foundation.
Yes.
It's not wavering. It's not conditional in the sense of, well, if I do this, if I do that, then I earn God's love. Like,
Yeah.
no, he literally died for you. He stayed on that cross because he was thinking about you. He was thinking about me. He was thinking about even this moment right here where you saw all of it, and he couldn't wait for it to where we were worthy of the price, even though
and that's
we rejected him for so long.
And that's something I will say that I think I'm still struggling with navigating right now, is the statement of nothing you do will get him to love you more or love you less. And being such a like people pleaser at my heart, really struggle with that. I'm like, well, I made a mistake. Am I now going to be condemned? Is he going to kick me to the curb? Like, what is this like? Or like in the moments of silence where I'm praying for something and he's not answering, I'm like, I messed up somewhere.
Yeah.
And so now I feel like this kid that needs to go in the corner, because I'm like, I messed up.
Yeah.
But reminding myself, like, no, that's not how this works. If he's not answering, it's either one, you're not reading your word enough, or two, it's not the right time. And
hey, God, talk to me, but you don't open up your Bible.
Yeah.
You don't pray.
Yeah.
So I remember someone asking Pastor Tim Ross, actually, funny enough that we're talking about him, about the whole honoring thing. And I don't know if I shared it with you, but it's kind of the same situation. It's like, my parents are toxic, they're this, they're that, they're not Christian, they're stuck in their own sin and their own brokenness, and but the Bible says to honor, right? And when I right now looked at the definition of honor, it's to give respect, to understand that something holds weight, and at the same time, we're able to honor our parents and also set boundaries. And that's what Tim said. I think I shared that with you, like having the boundaries with your parents, because we have to be wise about protecting our mind and our hearts. And if we really look at it, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the spirits, and authorities in the spiritual realm. So if our parents are being utilized by the enemy to throw jabs at us, to say things that are lies, right? I mean, yes, we can rebuke them. We can overcome it with the truth, which is, we can do that. But why not be wise and respect them, like have love for them, pray for them, and then set the boundaries. Like, boundaries keeps us safe.
Yeah.
And we can have boundaries without disrespecting. We can have boundaries without taking away, like, the fact that they gave us birth, right?
Yeah.
So two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
And I take counseling at the church, and I just had it on Wednesday, and she was asking me about my mom. She asked me, if no one knew who your mom was, how would you describe her? And I started describing her, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, and she's like, okay, so, she's like, I can hear that you understand that all that stuff that you're saying comes from a broken and sinful place. So you're not holding it against her, but do you think maybe, there's a way for you to, how should I say, there's a way for you to be wise, so you're not having to throw down so many fiery darts, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's what the enemy's doing. He throws fiery darts, and he does that through thoughts in our mind, the war for our mind. And so if my mom is constantly saying this, and this, and this, even though I'm like, oh, yeah, I know the truth, but why put yourself in a position to be in front of the enemy and go like this? Yeah. Like, just shoot at me. Yeah. It's like, yes, we can overcome anything with the armor of God and be wise. Yeah. Like, you're not going to go to a bar and hang out all day there because that's literally putting yourself in a situation where you're going to be tempted. You're going to have to fight. Like, why? You know,
Yeah,
so
no, agreed.
just being wise, you know?
Yeah. And where you're putting yourself in these situations and everything like that. Yeah. And I think kind of like how you're saying, like, there is something to like the therapy part. I've never actually done it through church, which I actually do want to do, especially right now where I'm at. But in just the therapy that I've done and the self-reflecting that I've done, I've realized a lot. And I've realized how much like that generational pain can really just keep going if someone doesn't just like put a stop to it. Yeah.
Hi guys, I know you guys are enjoying the episode, but real quick, I want to take a moment to shout out Kangen, the sponsor of this YouTube. I have been drinking this water since 2017. I was actually really sick for about 4 weeks. I was in and out of the hospital. I was throwing up, fever, chills, headache. Turns out I had like a really bad stomach infection / kidney infection. I posted a picture of me laying in bed with all these empty water bottles, and the caption was like, drink, they said, water, they said. And this was on Snapchat. That's how you know it was back in the day. Nonetheless, this guy reached out to me and was like, hey, you need Kangen water. It's like, it's the healthiest water you could be drinking. It's from Japan, medical grade device. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, thanks, but I'm good. You know, I just was like, just brushing it off. He was like, hey, like, I will drop off these gallons for you for free and you can just drink it. Like, you'll feel better. I met him at the Sprouts parking lot, and that night I drank a little bit more than half a gallon, and I was tripping because I remember telling my dad, I really think this is making me feel better. Like, my headache's going away. I really don't feel like my body is aching as much. And he was like, it's just placebo. Man, maybe it is. But then I watched a mind-blowing video, and that's the same video I want to share with you today. That video just completely shifted my perspective on everything. It really showed me the science behind everything, how doctors and world-renowned doctors stand behind this, how the same doctor that produced the colonoscopy procedure prescribes this water to his patients, celebrities and celebrity athletes that are drinking this. And I was like, okay, this is legit. There's a lot of science to back it up. And so I just kept drinking the water. I eventually invested into the machine, and since then I've been drinking it. Since then I've helped over 100 families invest into this machine, and I will be slanging Kangen for the rest of my life. It is something I truly believe in, and once people know about it and see the video, you can't unsee, and you'll forever be drinking bottled water and have that in the back of your head of like how much harm it's causing you, your babies, the planet, all the things. So with that, if you want to see the video, I will direct message you the video. Just comment water below, or just click my Instagram links in the show notes and direct message me on either the podcast Instagram or my personal Instagram. All right, let's get back to the episode. Bye.
If God said, hey, you are set apart, you're going to be different, do not, like, I pulled you out of that, don't go back to that. Yeah. And for me, that was actually a big thing with the drinking, and that's something that I'm trying to break away from, like, permanently, because, which is actually, I can't believe I just said that, because now here it is, and I gotta stick it out, but it's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that accountability. Yeah, though, because I prayed to God at one point. I was like, why did you make me so different from them? Like, and I hated God for a while, and I was like, you made me stick out like a sore thumb. And now I look back and I'm like, I'm the one that's supposed to break this. And thank you for loving me enough to give me that honorable position to do that. And in that, I do all the healing that I need to do through him and, you know, through therapy and everything like that. And I've realized, like, it actually breaks my heart. And I think one of the best and worst prayers I've ever done is I pray to God, whoever I come across, whatever breaks your heart, break mine. Oh, dude, I was like a very like straight face, like learned how to like be cold front with people, because that's just how I learned to cope. And we weren't a very like loving family. And now I feel like I'm like a big Chiona. Like, it's,
you cry over everything.
Yeah. And like, it's funny because like I'll be in a conversation with somebody and I feel this overwhelming sadness, and I've realized that is the Holy Spirit's way of coming in me and being like, we're gonna break this real quick. And I feel like the need to sob. I don't sob, but I feel it.
Yeah.
And then I feel like he's like, pray for them right now. And I'm like, okay. And so
because it's breaking his heart.
Yes. And it's been the best and the worst, because I've been able to help so many people in that way. But learning how to pray for your parents in that way, I've cried so much for them.
Yeah.
Because in so many situations, I'm like, I want you to experience the love that I experienced through him. And I pray for them all the time. And if they see this, I hope they know that, like, in this, I haven't really said anything, to their character, because that's not for me to judge. I understand that they had their own trials and tribulations, and they didn't have their own support. And just like it's my first time doing this, it's their first time doing this. But at the end of the day, like, we have boundaries that we set. And just because I know that God's by my side doesn't mean I need to just be throwing myself in the fire and be like, oh, God, you're just going to pull me out every time? Yeah. It's like, what are you doing?
And that's not to say that, because God can redeem anything.
Yeah.
So that's not to say that the boundaries can look different in later 10 years, We always can carry that grace because we've been given grace by God.
Yes.
Who are we to not have grace with people?
Correct.
Like wise grace and boundaries, right? Which brings me to the next thing. Because I threw myself in a position to where I went on the Whatever podcast. Because she stopped talking to me, guys.
For a little bit.
I don't blame you.
I should not have judged you.
No, but it's good. It was also like a pruning for both of us.
Yeah.
We were both going through a process. We didn't understand it. It was different processes, but then we got together at Nook and we were like, oh, that makes sense. But I went on the Whatever podcast twice. I think it was the first time that I went on that you were like...
Yeah, I don't think I saw the second one. I think I only saw
You're like,
I don't need the second one.
I didn't even...
I watched these ones.
Good. Okay, so, and in that Whatever podcast, just context, it's a podcast that's very popular, and half the table, it's like conservative or Christian or both girls, and the other table is usually like OnlyFans girls or Democratic or liberal, just two opposing sides, right?
I think their point to what they're trying to do is like people of Christ and then the world is what they try to like.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
And it's also set up to where, especially now that that I've been, I'm like, oh, this is all very strategic in the sense like, dude, it's an 8-hour podcast.
Yeah.
And there's no breaks.
No.
There's no breaks. And all the questions that they ask, and it's meant to cause friction, and from a spiritual level, it's meant to mess with your flesh. Like it's...
Yeah.
And there was literally a time where I said, okay, I gotta get off this mic because my flesh is like, but then I pulled it back. I got something to say though, so with that, it was not my best. My flesh was definitely fleshing, and I went in with the intent of like, oh, I'm gonna represent Christ, and I'm gonna talk about Christ and why, plant seeds or all the things, and again, I was not wise, and I put myself in a situation where a lot of fiery darts were thrown, and that looks different in many ways. And there is one particular girl that, at the end of the day, when I look at it from a spiritual sense, it's just broken and without God and without, like we all are. And this is her way of coping with it, is her lifestyle. And yeah, I didn't handle it the right way. I even apologized afterwards, like on my story. I don't know if you saw that, actually. You probably unfollowed me right away.
I think I did. I think I did.
No, literally, I gotta find that on my archive because I apologized probably like the next day.
You know what? I did see it, actually.
Yeah, because I had conviction as soon as I got in my car.
Yeah. I
started sobbing, and it was in Santa Barbara, so I drove like... it's far, like I don't know, and it was like 3-4 a.m. and I'm like sobbing. I felt so much conviction, and I was just like, dang, dude, like that was my chance to represent, and I did the complete opposite. And so yeah, and then I noticed like there was like some distance, but we were never like talking like a day-to-day thing.
Yeah.
So it's like in the sense like I didn't fully notice it until until later on. I don't even remember how, but then you reached out to me. It was like a year late. No.
Yeah, because I stopped joining the Bible study after that.
So it must have been like, it was less than a year because this was last year. But nonetheless, so I kind of want to, I mean, I already know, but just to share the, because that in itself was, again, a process for both of us.
Yeah. What do you want me to share?
Like why you were upset, and then what kind of shifted that.
Yeah. So I think at that time I was definitely in like a pruning season, and so but I also wasn't technically turning to God to be like, I need confirmation or validation on what's being pruned and what's not.
Yeah.
And having the upbringing that I did, I kind of have taught myself to really push people away. And especially when it comes to accountability, I'm just like, you know what? Like, I have this idea in my head, like, you don't actually care about me. So the second you make a mistake, you're out. And that's something I'm still working through right now. But at that time when I saw that podcast, I kind of just felt like almost like your faith was not real. Because I'm like, how are you going to go on a podcast?
This is a learning lesson for Christians.
Yeah, sure. And like condemn someone for, and like how many like views do people get? I don't watch that podcast, but I watch it because you were on it. And in my head, I was like, why would you go
like
on this?
Millions, dude.
Yeah, like exactly. So
crazy.
Put yourself in a position where millions of people are gonna see this, and so in my head, I was like, what are you doing? So in my head, also because I'm a people pleaser, I remember actually telling God, I'm gonna peace out because my hands are clean. I don't know her. I didn't, and I realized later down the line, I was like, oh wow, yeah, well, who did Jesus sit with? And it's like, the sinners, right? And he's like, right, I did. And I remember reading actually for the first time ever, The Woman at the Well.
Yeah.
And that's what made me reach out to you, that I was like, why are you doing this to her? Like, you understand what she's been going through. You've had your own thing. You found God at 2013 and you left. And you came back in 2017 and then you're still trying to figure it out. Who are you to look at this woman and to say, hey, your efforts are not enough? No.
Yeah.
That's not loving at all. And in my head, I was like, you need to apologize to her. Like, you 1,000% need to reach out to her. Tell her to her face that you're sorry, because what if you condemning her pushes her further away from God? So yeah, you're over here trying to please God, but really, you're not pleasing God. Like, you're doing like almost like a cowardice route where it's like, well, if you're messing up, I don't want to be a part of that. And it's like, that's not what fellowship is. That's not what friendship is.
Not correction.
Nothing. That's just me looking out for myself because I don't want God to do that later. But it's like, also,
wait, but now that I think about it, I think you did send me a message.
I did.
Right? And I think you're like say like I get what you're trying to do, but that's not the way to do it.
Correct. I think my problem from that point that kind of ended it is that you did post the apology, but then everyone else was like promoting it, and then you were promoting their post. So then I felt like, are you really sorry? Because you tell me I made a mistake, but then everyone's like resharing the stories and like, oh, I'm supporting my girl, and then you're reposting it, and that was after you said like I messed up, and I was like, so which one is it?
Yeah.
And that was kind of thing for me. I was like, all right, well, this is not.
I'm trying to think of my process. I think that like with me, it was a like. I mean, I know I can't say exactly what my thought process was about that particular, like as far as like reposting, but I do remember like telling you like, even the fact like, dude, right, as soon as we got in the car, like you're right, like thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
But then you kind of pieced out after that, and something that Coach Franklin always says is he was just telling us yesterday that like someone's sin looks really bad on them, but if we were to do that sin, all of a sudden it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And if we really were to look at the Bible, it's all sin is equal.
Yeah.
So being in a same-sex relationship is the same as being drunk all the time, or being gluttonous, or judgy, whatever it may look like. Like it's all like, to God, he's like, y'all are both messing up.
Yeah, a sin is a sin.
Yeah, like
and I constantly you remind myself of that. Like, when I have like a thought of like judging someone, I think of whatever it is now that I did, and I'm like, isn't that one and the same? Even though maybe mine was drinking and theirs was doing something else, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. A sin is a sin.
Yeah.
And the second thing I do now is I'm like, you just judge them. You better go pray for them right now.
Yeah.
And so I do. And so now I've trained myself. If a negative thought pops in my head, I'm not going to pray for you.
Yeah.
Because the enemy can come in my head and be like, all right, we're going to be irritated with this. And it's like, no, actually, we're not. We're going to rebuke that. And I'm going to pray for them. And you can just peace out. I'm not dealing with this anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's been like kept me to the point right now where I'm very loving. Because like, I'm not going to entertain that thought. I'm not going to condemn someone. I'm not going to judge someone. Nothing. Because in my head, God has quite literally gotten me to this point. I am beyond grateful from who I was to where I am now, and I want to see you also get to that point.
Yeah.
And whatever it is that we're struggling with, like, I want that person to make it to that point, because life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's always going to be hard, but at least you don't have to do it on your own.
Yeah. And I don't know why Tim Ross keeps popping up in my head, but the reason why I started following him and I started to listen to his sermons and everything like that is because the very first time I heard him talk, he was talking to, he was on a podcast with a different pastor. And that different pastor was sharing his first experience with Tim Ross. Mm-hmm. And basically Tim Ross was his mentor. And Tim Ross picked up this other pastor and he's like, I'm going to take a quick phone call. But he was in the car with him, so he was on speaker and everything. And so Tim Ross, here he is on the phone, and he's talking to someone on the phone, and he's telling the person like, yeah, I'm out here right now, and I was at my hotel room last night. He's like, I started to have lustful thoughts, and so I had to call my wife, and so I wouldn't be tempted to go do X, Y, and Z. And so then this other pastor's sitting there like, what the heck? Like, you're straight up just confessing that you have lustful thoughts as a pastor and that you were tempted and that you had to do this, and you're telling your accountability partner. And me hearing that, I was like, oh, I can follow this guy because he's being for real. Like, he's being honest.
Yeah.
And when can be honest with whatever's coming up, it doesn't, yes, you're held at a higher standard when you're a pastor or teacher, like James talks about, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have those temptations or sins or anything like that. So I think the more real we are with one another about what's coming up, this is like the example I gave the girls this morning. It's like, because sometimes people can think like, well, my situation's too messy. Like, I don't want to burden a leader. I don't want to burden a friend that can potentially help me get through this because it's just too messy.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, no, when we're at a grocery store and I don't know if you ever like dropped or broken something and it's like, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, it's like a whole big mess. And you're like, oh my gosh. It's like, I used to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. And then someone slips and they fall. So the more you don't expose the mess, now you're putting others at risk because you're gonna hurt them. Yeah. And then, but it's like if you just say, hey, which was not what I do. I grab like an employee and I'm like, hey, can I like, where can I get paper towels? Like, I'll clean it up. Yeah. And they're like, no, don't worry about it. But I feel like that's how God is. It's like if you expose it and you like
bring it to light,
God's gonna be like, it's fine, I got it. Yeah. But you have to voice it.
Yeah.
If not, it just, you stay messy and then you get other people messy, know? So I kind of really believe in that. Just like, let's just bring it up, anytime there's any type of friction, even with Jesus Squad leadership and stuff, like now we've grown to be like, let's just address it. Yeah. Because when you don't address things, the enemy is going to creep in. And all
what's funny too is I think, one, it addresses the problem and it fixes it.
Yes.
Brings that accountability. Two, you don't know what somebody else also is dealing with, that might be a catalyst for them to like speak up.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah, and like that's something I definitely learned through like my depression. And like I remember in the beginning when I started filming these videos and everything like that, he would tell me like, first of all, looking back at one of those videos, I quite literally am like, positive vibes, positive energy. Stay happy, guys. I don't know who was watching those videos, but I did not buy that at all. When I look back, but I was like, wow, but you tried, girl. I appreciate you. But looking back, though, like, I know people were messaging me and they're saying, like, thank you. That actually helped. And I'm like, in my head now, looking back, I'm like, do you need help now? You're getting help from me. I was dark, dude. Like, what are you talking about? But bringing
She's
that,
in church now.
yeah.
Let me give you some real.
How can I pray for you now? It's at that point you
I'm
were seeking
concerned.
advice from me.
I'm concerned for your well-being.
Pretty much.
That was what you needed.
Yeah, but I did learn that like talking about things
Yeah.
really does
Free you.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you free other people in that same sense.
Yeah, that's why I like hearing people's testimony.
Yeah.
They free themselves even more when they speak about what people have overcame, and then it frees other people because they're like, oh, it's not just me that's dealt with suicidal thoughts. It's not just me that's dealt with being cheated on, and it frees them to like, well, and gives them hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's all you can do is just love one another and hope that your efforts can inspire someone to turn to God or to fill their cup enough as well to like love other people. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're supposed to be here to.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Was there anything else that's on your heart that you want to share before we close out?
Oh, I think I said everything. Oh, I guess so. Anyone that's watching this, if you've had suicidal thoughts, if you feel like you're in this depression, you have anxiety all the time, I've been there. I've had to take several medications. I did not leave my bed. It was gross. I was in a very low point. I hated anyone that had any sort of happiness. If you had joy, I wanted to take it away from you. And I had so much anger. Why is your life easier than mine? Why do I have to go through all this? It doesn't have to be that way. You 1,000% can get out of this situation. And if that is you, I highly encourage you right now to just say, God, hey, I feel dark. Vocalize that. And ask for him to surround you with people that are going to love and support you. And watch the way he changes your life.
Yeah.
Because he quite literally has changed mine. And I would not be the version that I am if it was not for him saving me. Not once, not twice, but on numerous occasions. No matter how much you think your sin is, how heavy it is, he still will carry that for you.
Beautiful. Let's just end it there. Yeah. That was the mic drop. Thank you for coming. And I'm gonna cry. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go.